Billionaire Ethan Caldwell had spent 3 long years locking himself away in his mansion, drowning in grief after his wife's death. Then on one freezing Christmas night he heard the sound of metal scraping outside his door. When he stepped into the snow he saw a 7-year-old girl trembling as she dug through his mailbox in the middle of a blizzard. And when the girl finally spoke, her words stopped his heart cold. "You owe me." What Ethan discovered next would shatter everything he thought he knew. Before we continue, tell us what time it is and where you're watching from, and subscribe because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. The wind cut through Ashbury like a blade. Snow fell in thick curtains, blanketing the town in a silence so complete it felt like the world had stopped breathing. Street lamps flickered weakly against the white darkness, casting shadows that danced and died with each gust. Ethan Caldwell stood at the window of his study, one hand pressed against the cold glass. He was 53 years old, though the lines etched deep into his face suggested he'd lived twice that long. His hair had gone salt and pepper, unkempt and overgrown. He hadn't bothered with a barber in months. The mansion groaned with emptiness. 14 rooms, each one a monument to a life he'd stopped living 7 years ago. The day Sarah died, Ethan had locked himself inside these walls. He'd been a titan of the tech industry once, co-founder of Magnus Industries. Now he was just a ghost haunting his own home. He poured himself scotch, not because he wanted it, but because it was something to do. He was raising the glass when he heard it, a soft scraping from the front porch. His heart gave an unexpected kick. He moved through the hallway, footsteps muffled by thick carpet. Through the side window he saw something that stopped him cold. A child, a little girl no more than 7 years old, stood on his porch in the howling storm. She wore a thin jacket, too thin for this weather, and her bare hands were red with cold. She wasn't trying to break in. She stood on her tiptoes, reaching into his mailbox, pulling out envelopes and examining them under the dim porch light. Something twisted in Ethan's chest. Before he could second-guess himself, he unlocked the door and pulled it open. The cold hit him like a wall. The girl spun around, eyes wide, clutching his mail against her chest. "What are you doing?" His voice came out harsher than intended, rusty from disuse. The girl stared up at him with striking blue eyes, pale, almost translucent. In those eyes Ethan saw fear, but not fear of him. Fear of everything. "I'm looking for a letter," she said. Her voice was small but steady. "My grandma said she left one here. She said if I ever needed help I should come here and find it." "Your grandma?" Ethan's mind raced. "Who's your grandma?" "Nora Miller." The name hit him like a physical blow. Ethan actually stepped back, gripping the door frame. Nora Miller. He hadn't heard that name spoken aloud in over a decade. "Nora," he breathed. The girl nodded. "She used to work here, a long time ago. She said you were a good man. She said if anything happened to her I should come here." "Where is she?" Ethan asked, though his gut already knew. "Where's Nora?" The girl looked down. "She died 3 weeks ago." The wind howled between them. Ethan looked at this impossibly small, impossibly brave child and felt something crack open inside him. "What's your name?" "Lucy." "Lucy." He stepped aside. "There's no letter in that mailbox. But I think maybe there's one inside. Come in. You'll freeze to death out here." She hesitated, and in that hesitation, Ethan saw a lifetime of broken promises from adults. She didn't trust him. She didn't trust anyone. "I just need the letter," Lucy said quietly. "Then I'll go. Then we'll find the letter. But first you need to get warm." Finally she stepped inside. Ethan led her to the sitting room where the fireplace still glowed with embers. He added logs, stirring them until flames caught. Lucy stood near the fire, watching him with careful eyes. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair. She perched on the edge like a bird ready to fly. Ethan grabbed a blanket and draped it over her shoulders. "I'll make hot chocolate." In the kitchen his hands shook. Nora Miller. He remembered the day of the accident, the screech of tires, shattering glass. Nora had pulled Sarah from the wreckage while Ethan stood frozen. She'd saved Sarah's life, gotten injured doing it, and never asked for anything in return. And then he'd let her disappear from his life. When Sarah died and Ethan retreated from the world, he'd cut everyone off. Including Nora. She'd written him letters. He remembered the envelopes, but he'd thrown them away unopened. What kind of man does that? He returned with 2 mugs. Lucy took hers with both hands, holding it close before taking a cautious sip. "Your grandmother was a remarkable woman," Ethan said. Lucy nodded. "She talked about you sometimes. She said you were sad. She said everyone gets sad sometimes, but that doesn't make them bad." The words cut deep. She was right. "I have been sad, for a very long time." "Because your wife died," Lucy said. "Yes, my mom died too. I don't remember her. Grandma Nora raised me after that." Her voice was matter of fact. "And now Grandma's gone too. They put me in a home. Bright future they call it. But it's not bright and it doesn't feel like a future." Something cold settled in Ethan's stomach. "They're not treating you well." Lucy's gaze returned to the fire. "They're not mean, they just don't care. Nobody really cares. Grandma said you would. She said if I found the letter, you'd understand." "I'll find it," Ethan promised. "Whatever Nora left, I'll find it." They sat in silence, drinking hot chocolate, listening to the fire crackle. Within minutes, exhaustion pulled Lucy under. She fell asleep in the chair, the blanket tucked around her, her face finally peaceful. Ethan watched her sleep, this unexpected visitor carrying his past on her shoulders. He thought about Nora, about the debt he'd never repaid. He thought about Sarah, who would have brought Lucy inside without hesitation. "If this is a second chance," he thought, "I won't waste it." Outside, the snow continued to fall, but inside, for the first time in years, a small light had been kindled. Ethan rose quietly and went in search of Nora's letter. Morning arrived gray and cold. Ethan woke in his armchair, his neck stiff. Lucy was still asleep across from him, curled beneath Sarah's blanket. He'd spent half the night searching. Around 3 in the morning, he'd remembered the blue room, the guest bedroom where Nora used to stay. In the top drawer of the nightstand, he'd found it. A manila envelope with his name in Nora's careful script. Inside was a letter and a photograph of Nora holding a baby, Lucy. Lucy stirred, eyes fluttering open. She saw him and tensed, then relaxed as memory returned. "Good morning," Ethan said softly. "Morning." Her voice was rough with sleep. "Did you find it?" "I did." He held up the pages. "Would you like me to read it?" Lucy nodded, pulling the blanket tighter. Ethan cleared his throat and began. "Dear Ethan, if you're reading this then I'm gone, and Lucy has found her way to you. I hope you'll forgive me for this burden, but you're the only person I trust with her life. Lucy is my granddaughter. My daughter Margaret died 7 years ago. I raised Lucy from infancy. She's the light of my life, Ethan. She's curious and brave and kind. I'm dying. Cancer. I've made arrangements, but I know where Lucy will end up in the system. In a place like Bright Future, where they warehouse children. I'm sending her to you because you owe me a life. Do you remember April 15th, 2010, the intersection of Maple and 4th? You and Sarah in your car, the truck that ran the red light. You stood frozen while she was trapped inside, and I pulled her out. I got her breathing again. I broke 3 ribs and dislocated my shoulder doing it, but I'd do it 1,000 times over. You tried to pay me. I told you then what I'll tell you now. I didn't do it for payment. I did it because it was right, but now I'm calling in that debt. Not as payment. I still don't want your money, but as a promise. Please give Lucy what she needs. A home, safety, someone who sees her as more than a problem. I know you've been drowning in grief, Ethan, but Lucy needs you to swim back to shore, and maybe she can give you a reason to try. You're a good man, Ethan Caldwell. You've forgotten that, but it's still true. Let Lucy remind you. With hope and faith, Nora Miller's silence filled the room. Lucy was crying, quiet tears sliding down her cheeks without sound. She never told me, Lucy whispered, about saving your wife. That was Nora. She never wanted credit. She talked about you though. At the end, she kept saying your name. She kept saying, he'll help. He's good. Lucy wiped her eyes. I didn't understand then, but I remembered the address. She'd made me memorize it. Ethan set the letter aside. Lucy, I need to be honest. Nora did save my wife, and for 3 more years Sarah lived. We had 3 more years because of what Nora did, but then Sarah got sick. Cancer, like Nora, and I lost her anyway. Grandma knew, Lucy said. She wanted to come see you, but you wouldn't answer her letters. The guilt crashed over him. I threw them away. I was so lost in my own pain that I couldn't see anyone else's. What I did was selfish and cruel. She didn't think so. She said everyone grieves differently. She said you just needed time. More time than I deserved. Ethan met her eyes, but she was right about one thing. I do owe her, and I'm not going to turn you away, Lucy. You're not going back to that place. Lucy's eyes widened. You mean I'm going to find a way to keep you safe. Here with me, if you'll have it. Fresh tears spilled down Lucy's cheeks, but these looked different, like hope. Really? Really? Lucy launched herself from the chair, and threw her arms around his neck. She was crying in earnest now, her small body shaking. Ethan froze for a heartbeat before slowly wrapping his arms around her. For 7 years, Ethan had felt nothing but numbness. Now holding this child who'd lost everything, he felt the ice around his heart begin to crack. When Lucy pulled back, she was smiling. Actually smiling. Are you hungry? Ethan asked. Lucy nodded. Together they made scrambled eggs and toast. Lucy showed him Nora's trick of adding milk to make the eggs fluffy. They worked side by side, and the simple domesticity felt like medicine. What happens now? Lucy asked between bites. They'll be looking for me. Let them look. I'll call a lawyer today. A friend. We'll figure out how to make this legal. You'd do that? For me? Ethan reached across the table and took her hand. Lucy, I failed Nora. I can't fix that, but I can honor her memory by doing what she asked, by taking care of you. You're not alone anymore. Lucy squeezed back, her grip surprisingly strong. Grandma was right about you. About what? You are good. You just forgot for a while. Something broke open inside Ethan's chest. Tears stung his eyes. He didn't try to hide them. Maybe, he said quietly. But you and Nora, you're helping me remember. After breakfast, Ethan showed Lucy the blue room. This was your grandmother's room. It's yours now, if you want it. Lucy walked in slowly, eyes wide. On the nightstand sat a framed photo of Nora. Lucy picked it up, tracing her grandmother's face. Can I really stay here? As long as you want, and you won't send me away if I'm too much trouble. Ethan knelt to her level. Lucy, I'm not going to send you away. Not now, not ever. I'm not perfect, and I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. Lucy studied his face, searching for the lie, but whatever she saw satisfied her. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Ethan stood and walked to the window. Outside, snow was beginning to melt in the afternoon sun. If this is a second chance, he thought again, I won't waste it. The first week passed in a strange, gentle rhythm. Ethan called Claire Benson, his late wife's best friend, and a family lawyer who'd been trying to reach him for years. Ethan, her voice cracked. Is that really you? It's me. Claire, I need your help. He explained everything. When he finished, Claire was quiet for a long moment. Sarah would be proud of you, she finally said. I'll start the paperwork immediately. Meanwhile, Lucy began to settle in. Not easily. Trust wasn't given freely by a child who'd been let down by every adult. But slowly, she started to relax. The first morning, she woke early and made her bed with military precision. When Ethan asked why, she said, at Bright Future, if your bed wasn't perfect, you didn't get breakfast. Ethan's jaw tightened. You don't have to do that here, but I want to. Grandma taught me. She said making your bed is how you tell yourself, the day is starting fresh. So Ethan started making his bed too, for the first time in 7 years. Lucy was quiet, much of the time, always watching with those careful eyes. She asked permission for everything, to use the bathroom, to get water, to sit on furniture. You don't need to ask permission for those things, Ethan told her. This is your home now. But permission asking was a habit born from institutions. It would take time to unlearn. On the third day, Ethan found her in the library, staring at the floor-to-ceiling shelves with wonder. Have you read all of these? She asked. Most of them. My wife was the real reader. Grandma used to read to me every night. Lucy's voice went soft. I miss that. What did she read? All kinds of things. But my favorite was The Secret Garden. Ethan found the book on Sarah's shelf. That night, after dinner, he read to her. His voice was rusty and he stumbled over words, but Lucy didn't mind. She curled up in the armchair, wrapped in her blanket, listening with complete attention. It became their evening ritual, dinner, then reading by the fire. On the 5th day, Lucy discovered the piano. It was a beautiful Steinway grand that Sarah had loved. Ethan hadn't touched it since she died. Lucy pulled off the dust cover and pressed a single key. The note rang out, pure and clear. Do you play? Ethan asked from the doorway. A little. Grandma knew some songs. She taught me. Lucy looked at him uncertainly. Is it okay? Of course. Lucy sat on the bench, her feet barely reaching the pedals, and played a simple melody, something slow and sweet like a lullaby. The music filled the house with life. Ethan listened, leaning against the doorframe, and felt tears slip down his face. That afternoon, they baked cookies together. Lucy found Sarah's old recipe box in the kitchen. Can we try? She asked, holding up a card for chocolate chip cookies. They made an unholy mess. Lucy cracked eggs with enthusiastic abandon, getting shell fragments everywhere. Ethan mismeasured the flour and created a cloud of white dust. The cookies came out lopsided and slightly burned. They were perfect. Grandma always said the ugly ones taste best, Lucy announced, biting into a misshapen cookie. They ate warm cookies and cold milk, and for the first time since Sarah's death, the house felt like a home. That night, as Ethan tucked Lucy into bed, she said something that made his heart stop. I had nightmares at Bright Future, about Grandma, about being alone, but I haven't had one since I came here. You feel safe here? Ethan asked. Yes. Then quieter. Is that okay, to feel safe? The question broke him. What kind of life had this child lived where feeling safe required permission? It's more than okay, he said. It's how things should always be. At Bright Future, they had locks on all the doors. From the outside, they said it was for our safety. But, Lucy trailed off. But it felt like being trapped. Ethan finished. She nodded. Ethan walked to the bedroom door, and left it wide open. No locks here, Lucy. You can leave this door open or close it, whatever makes you comfortable. You're free here. Lucy looked at the open door, then back at him. What if I have a nightmare? Then you come find me. I'm just down the hall, and you won't be mad. I could never be mad at you for being scared. She smiled, really smiled, and it transformed her whole face. Good night, Ethan. It was the first time she'd used his name. Something about it made him want to cry again. Good night, Lucy. The next morning, Ethan woke to find Lucy sitting on his bedroom floor, drawing in a sketch pad from Sarah's old art supplies. How long have you been there? He asked, groggy. A little while. I woke up early. She held up the drawing. Do you like it? It was a picture of the house, rendered in colored pencil. The windows glowed yellow, smoke curled from the chimney, and in the doorway stood two stick figures, one tall, one small. It's beautiful, Ethan said, and meant it. It's us, in our house, not his house, our house. Can we hang it up? Lucy asked. Better than a museum. We'll put it on the refrigerator. They did, using fruit-shaped magnets Sarah had collected. The drawing looked ridiculously cheerful against the stainless steel. Ethan loved it. Over breakfast, Lucy asked, why do you live alone? In such a big house? Ethan considered how much to tell her. She was 7, but she'd seen enough to handle truth. I used to live here with my wife. After she died, I couldn't leave. All her things are here. Leaving felt like losing her twice. But staying meant being surrounded by reminders of what I lost. So I just stopped living. Grandma said, that's called grief. She was right. She said grief is love with nowhere to go. Ethan set down his fork, struck by the simple wisdom. That's exactly what it is. Maybe now your love has somewhere to go again, Lucy said matter-of-factly. Ethan reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Maybe it does. That afternoon, Ethan did something he hadn't done in 7 years. He opened Sarah's closet. Her clothes still hung there, untouched. He ran his hand along the fabrics, soft cashmere sweaters, silk blouses, the sundress she'd worn on their last vacation. He didn't take anything out. He wasn't ready, but he stood there for a long time, remembering, and for once the memories didn't drown him. When Lucy woke from her nap, she found him in the backyard, building a snowman. It was lopsided, and the stick arms were uneven, but he was trying. Can I help? She called from the porch. I was hoping you would. I'm terrible at this. Together they finished the snowman, using a carrot for the nose and an old scarf for decoration. Grandma and I used to make snowmen, Lucy said, but we never had a yard like this. You can make as many snowmen as you want here. Lucy looked up at him. Why are you being so nice to me? The question caught him off guard. Because you deserve kindness, Lucy. At Bright Future they said nobody wants older kids. They said kids like me don't get families. Ethan knelt in the snow, eye level with her. Listen to me very carefully. What they told you was cruel and wrong. You're not an older kid, you're Lucy, you're smart and brave and you've survived things that would break most adults. Any family would be lucky to have you. Even you, especially me. He took a breath. Lucy, I know I'm not your father. I know I can't replace your grandmother. But if you'll let me, I'd like to try to be someone you can count on. Lucy studied his face with those perceptive eyes. Then she threw her arms around his neck. You already are, she whispered. They stayed outside until their fingers went numb. When they finally went inside, they made hot chocolate and sat by the fire. Ethan, Lucy said, staring into the flames. Yes, if I stay here forever, will you teach me things? Like Grandma did. What kind of things? Everything. How to be good, how to be brave, how to be okay after bad things happen. Ethan felt his throat tighten. I'm probably not the best teacher for that last one. I haven't figured it out myself, but you're trying now. That counts. Then yes, I'll teach you everything I know. And you can teach me too. What can I teach you? How to live again, Ethan said quietly. I think you're already better at that than I am. Lucy smiled and leaned against his shoulder. Outside the sun was setting, painting the snow pink and gold. Inside the fire crackled and the house felt filled with something besides ghosts. That night, Ethan read 3 chapters instead of 1. When Lucy finally drifted off, he carried her upstairs and tucked her in. As he was leaving, she mumbled, still half asleep. Love you. She was probably dreaming, talking to some phantom, but the words hit Ethan like a freight train. He stood in the doorway for a long time watching her sleep. I love you too, he whispered back. And he meant it. Claire Benson arrived on a Tuesday morning carrying a leather briefcase and wearing an expression that meant business. She'd been Sarah's college roommate, her maid of honor, her fiercest friend. You look like hell, she said by way of greeting. Good to see you too, Claire. She studied him, then pulled him into a fierce hug. I've missed you, you stubborn fool. Lucy appeared at the top of the stairs, cautious around strangers. Is that the lawyer? Lucy, this is Claire Benson. Claire, meet Lucy Miller. Claire looked up at the little girl and her expression softened. Hello Lucy, your grandmother was a remarkable woman. I met her a few times, she had the kindest eyes I've ever seen. Lucy came down slowly. You knew Grandma? Not well, but enough to know she was special. Claire crouched to Lucy's level. Ethan tells me you're quite special too. Lucy glanced at Ethan, checking if this was true. He nodded, and something pleased crossed her face. Can I get you coffee? Ethan asked Claire. I'll make it, Lucy said quickly. Grandma showed me how. They settled in the study after Lucy delivered perfect cups of coffee. She'd asked to stay, this was about her life, after all. Claire pulled files from her briefcase. Okay, Lucy's current status is ward of the state, placed with bright future pending foster placement. Nora didn't have a will, so there's no legal designation of guardianship. What do we need to do? Ethan asked. Emergency temporary custody first, then foster certification, then adoption if that's your direction. It won't be quick, and Child Protective Services will scrutinize everything. My mental health. Ethan laughed bitterly. They're going to love that. You've been grieving, Ethan. That's not a disqualification. Claire looked at Lucy. Honey, would you mind if I talked to Ethan alone for a few minutes? Lucy looked at Ethan, who nodded. After Lucy left, Claire's expression turned serious. Are you doing this because you genuinely want to care for this child, or because you feel obligated? Both, Ethan admitted. But Claire, she's bringing me back to life. These past 10 days I've felt more present than I have in 7 years. I'm not doing this just for Nora. I'm doing it because I want her here. Good, because raising a traumatized 7-year-old isn't going to be easy. I know, but I'm going to try. Claire nodded. Then let's get to work. I've already filed for emergency custody. But Ethan, I did some digging into Bright Future. I found some things that concern me. Like what? Claire pulled out another file. Bright Future is run by a company called Red Hollow Security Services. They operate several group homes throughout the state. I found 3 complaints in the past 2 years, allegations of neglect, emotional abuse. all investigated and dismissed. Dismissed how? Insufficient evidence. All 3 investigations handled by the same caseworker, who concluded the children were unreliable witnesses. Claire tapped the file. That's code for we're not taking this seriously. Ethan felt ice in his veins. Lucy told me about being locked in rooms. About not eating if your bed wasn't perfect. That tracks with the complaints, but without evidence, these places keep operating. Claire's expression was grim. If we fight for custody, Red Hollow might fight back. They receive state funding per child. Let them fight. It's not just about money, Ethan. Red Hollow has connections. Political connections. I saw their board of directors, state legislators, former judges, business leaders. Something clicked in Ethan's mind. You said Red Hollow security. What kind of security? Private military contractors, mostly, government work. The Youth Services Division is actually a small part of their operation, or a cover. Ethan muttered. He went to his desk, pulling up his computer. Claire, I need you to look at something. He pulled up records from his Magnus Industries days, corporate filings, partnership agreements. Here, he pointed at the screen. Magnus Industries, minority stakeholder in Red Hollow Security. The investment was made 8 years ago, right after I left the company. Claire leaned in. Your old company is funding the organization housing Lucy. Not just funding. Look at the board overlap. 3 board members serve on both Magnus and Red Hollow boards, including Richard Hale. Your old partner. The man who pushed me out of my own company. Ethan's jaw tightened. Claire, Magnus deals in data, surveillance technology, predictive analytics. Why would they invest in a private security firm running youth facilities? Claire's expression darkened. Because vulnerable children in state custody make perfect test subjects. No families to ask questions. Exactly. I need to dig deeper, but I think there's something bigger here. And I think Nora might have discovered it. What makes you say that? Because Nora worked for Magnus Industries for 3 years, she had access to their buildings. She quit suddenly 6 years ago. He stopped. Claire, you said Nora died 3 weeks ago. What was the cause? Claire flipped through her notes. Official report says accidental fall. She tripped on stairs outside her apartment, hit her head. Dead on scene. Who found her? Anonymous 911 call. By the time police arrived, she was gone. Ethan and Claire stared at each other. You think it wasn't an accident? Claire said. I think a woman who survived 72 years and handled her own cancer diagnosis with grace doesn't just trip and fall. I think she found something she wasn't supposed to see. Ethan sat down. Can you get the full police report? Autopsy. I can try. Then we'll find another way. But Claire, if Lucy came to me because Nora was murdered, then she's not just a little girl who needs a home. She might be a witness. We need to move fast. Lucy's voice came from the doorway, small and frightened. Someone killed Grandma. They both turned. Lucy stood in the hallway, her face pale. Sweetheart, we don't know that. Claire said quickly, but you think so? Lucy's eyes filled with tears. She fell. They said she fell. But she was careful. She was always so careful. Ethan went to her, kneeling down. Lucy, did your grandmother tell you anything before she died? Anything about being scared? She told me to come here. She made me promise. She said if anything happened, I should find you and give you the letter. Her voice dropped to a whisper. She was scared, wasn't she? Ethan pulled her into a hug. I think she was being careful. She wanted to make sure you'd be safe. Are they going to come after me? No one is going to hurt you. Ethan said firmly. I promise you that. But over Lucy's head he met Claire's eyes and saw his own fear reflected back. After Claire left, Ethan made Lucy lunch and tried to act normal. That night, after Lucy went to bed, he returned to his study and dug deeper into Magnus Industries' recent activities. What he found made his blood run cold. Magnus had contracts with 12 different youth services organizations across 5 states. They developed a comprehensive child welfare monitoring system that tracked everything about kids in state custody, medical records, behavioral assessments, educational performance, even biometric data. The stated purpose was improving outcomes. But Ethan knew the technology. He'd helped develop early versions. This wasn't about helping kids, this was about data collection on a vulnerable population. And somewhere in that system, Nora Miller had discovered something worth killing for. Ethan pulled up a photo of Richard Hale from Magnus's website. His old partner looked prosperous and polished. They'd founded Magnus together 20 years ago, two young engineers with big dreams. But while Ethan had been content with innovation, Richard had been hungry for power. Now, looking at Richard's smile, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years: righteous anger. "What did you do, Richard?" he murmured. "What did Nora find?" His phone buzzed. A text from Claire. "Got the autopsy. You need to see this, coming by tomorrow morning." Ethan looked at the ceiling, knowing Lucy was asleep upstairs, safe for now. "I won't let you down," he whispered to Nora's ghost. "I'll find out what happened. I'll keep Lucy safe, I promise." Claire arrived at 7 in the morning, which told Ethan everything he needed to know. She looked like she hadn't slept, clutching a thick folder. Lucy was still asleep. They went straight to the study, and Claire closed the door. "You were right," she said without preamble. Nora Miller didn't just fall, she was pushed. Ethan's hands clenched. "Show me." Claire pulled out the autopsy report. Official cause: blunt force trauma to the head, consistent with falling downstairs. "But look here," the medical examiner noted unusual bruising on her upper back and shoulders, roughly hand-shaped. "And here, defensive wounds on her forearms." She fought back. She tried to. The ME noted these inconsistencies, but the conclusion was still accidental death. "Want to guess who signed off?" "Tell me." "Detective Victor Kane, formerly state police, currently head of security for Red Hollow Services." Claire pulled out a photograph, a hard-faced man with cold eyes. "He's been with Red Hollow for 4 years. Before that, 12 years as a detective with a reputation for being efficient at making cases disappear." Ethan stared at the photo, memorizing every detail. "He killed her. I can't prove that, but I can tell you Kane personally responded to the anonymous 911 call. He was first on scene, and he ruled it accidental before any other investigators arrived." Claire's voice was tight with anger. "There's more. I pulled records on the other complaints against Bright Future. All 3 were investigated by officers who reported to Kane. He's protecting Red Hollow. He's their fixer, someone who makes problems disappear." Claire sat down. "Ethan, I found 3 other suspicious deaths over the past 5 years, all people connected to facilities run by Red Hollow. All ruled accidental, all investigated by people connected to Kane. 3 deaths. No 4 counting Nora." "What about the Magnus connection?" Ethan asked. "That's where it gets really ugly." Claire pulled out more documents. "Magnus doesn't just..." "What about the Magnus connection?" Ethan asked. "That's where it gets really ugly." Claire pulled out more documents. "Magnus doesn't just fund Red Hollow. They're deeply integrated. Magnus provides all the technology infrastructure, security systems, monitoring software, data management. They have access to every piece of information about every child in Red Hollow's custody. Medical records," Ethan said, his stomach turning. "Biometric data. Everything. And 6 months ago, Magnus filed a patent for predictive behavioral modeling for at-risk youth populations. They're using the kids as test subjects, training AI models on vulnerable children who have no one to speak for them. That's my read. And worse, I found classified contract proposals between Magnus and several government agencies. Defense, Homeland Security. Magnus is pitching them predictive behavioral technology, pre-crime software, supposedly trained on ethically sourced youth welfare data." Ethan felt sick. They're selling it as a security tool. But they're building it by experimenting on orphan children. Children like Lucy. The sound of her name made Ethan's vision sharpen. Nora found this out. That's why she quit Magnus. That's why she took Lucy and tried to stay off the grid. And when they realized she knew too much, they killed her. Claire met his eyes. "Ethan, these people are connected at the highest levels. If you go after them..." I'm going after them. Ethan said flatly. They murdered Nora. They're experimenting on children. I helped build Magnus, Claire. I gave Richard the foundation he's using to do this. I'm complicit. You didn't know. That doesn't matter. I built the gun. I don't get to walk away clean because I didn't pull the trigger. He stood pacing. Richard and I developed the core algorithms for behavioral prediction. I was so proud. We were going to revolutionize mental health diagnostics, but I should have known technology like that could be weaponized. So what are you going to do? I'm going to tear it all down. Magnus, Red Hollow, all of it. But I need evidence. Real evidence. Getting that means getting inside Magnus's systems. That means felonies. I know what it means. Good thing I used to be an engineer. I know exactly where Magnus keeps their servers. Ethan, but first I need to make sure Lucy is safe. That afternoon, after Lucy finally went to play, reluctantly still scared, Ethan and Claire planned their next move. I need to get into Magnus headquarters. Ethan said. Their main server room is in the basement. I helped design the security system. I know its weaknesses. This is insane. Probably. But it's also necessary. Ethan pulled out his old Magnus badge. I've got friends in IT who owe me favors. People who remember what Magnus was supposed to be. That evening Ethan made calls. Careful calls, encrypted and brief. He used code, spoke in vagaries, but the message was clear. Something was wrong at Magnus and he needed inside help. 2 people agreed to meet him. 2 out of 15. But 2 was enough. Between calls, he spent time with Lucy. They made dinner together. Read 3 chapters of The Secret Garden. Played cards. You're worried, Lucy observed. I'm planning. Ethan corrected. Same thing. My teacher at Bright Future said worry is just love getting scared. Is that true? Yeah, sweetheart. That's true. Then it's okay to worry. It means you love me. Ethan pulled her into a hug. I do love you, Lucy. More than I thought possible. That night, as he tucked her into bed, Lucy asked, if you find the bad stuff they're doing, will it stop? Will other kids be safe? That's the plan. Good. She settled under the covers. Grandma always said one person standing up was worth more than 100 people sitting down. Your grandmother was very wise. After Lucy fell asleep, Ethan continued planning. He reached out to an old friend from MIT who ran a cybersecurity firm. Ethan Caldwell, the voice said. Surprised. Heard you dropped off the earth. I did. Now I need to break into my old company's servers. You interested? A pause. Legally or illegally? Does it matter? Not particularly. What's the target? Ethan explained everything. The children, the experiments, Nora's death, the government contracts. When he finished, his friend was silent for a long moment. I'm in. When do we move? Thursday night. Skeleton crew. Minimal oversight. Done. Ethan. Good to have you back among the living. Ethan hung up and stared at Richard Hale's photo on his screen. You took everything I built and twisted it into something evil. Ethan said. You killed a good woman, and you're hurting children. He thought about Lucy sleeping upstairs, about all the other children trapped in Red Hollow facilities. I'm coming for you, Richard. And I'm going to burn your house down. Ethan reached out to Emma Gray, an investigative journalist he'd known through Sarah. Emma had won 2 Pulitzers exposing corporate corruption. They met at a coffee shop, 40 miles outside Ashbury. Emma arrived looking sharp-eyed and ready for battle. Ethan Caldwell, she said, sliding into the booth. When you called, I almost didn't believe it. You've been a ghost for 7 years. I had reasons, but I'm not here to reminisce. I have something on Magnus Industries. Something big. How big? Corporate conspiracy, illegal human experimentation and murder. Ethan slid a USB drive across the table. Everything's on there. Financial records showing Magnus's investment in Red Hollow. Contracts with government agencies. Evidence they're testing technology on children in state custody. and documentation suggesting a woman named Nora Miller was murdered to keep this quiet. Emma stared at the drive. You understand what you're handing me? I understand I'm handing you the biggest story of your career. And I understand that publishing this will destroy Magnus Industries and land several people in prison. Including Richard Hale. Your partner, the man you founded the company with. Emma studied him. You're sure? I'm sure these people are hurting children, Emma. They killed a good woman, they need to be stopped. Emma picked up the drive. I'll need to verify everything. This'll take time. How much? A week, maybe 2. You don't have 2 weeks. Richard's getting nervous. Once he realizes Lucy's with me, he'll move fast. Ethan leaned forward. I'm hitting Magnus's servers Thursday night. Whatever I get will be on your desk by Friday morning. Can you have a story ready next week? Emma's eyes widened. You're planning a break-in. That's necessary. I can get in and out clean. If you get caught, then you publish anyway. Everything on that drive, plus whatever you can confirm. Promise me, Emma. No matter what happens, this story has to come out. Emma was quiet, weighing the decision. Finally she nodded. I promise, but be careful. If these people killed once, they'll kill again. I know. That's why I have to move fast. Thursday night arrived cold and clear. Ethan drove to Magnus headquarters with David Chen, his MIT friend, who'd aged well, and maintained his humor. Breaking and entering at 53, David said, "This is not how I pictured my midlife crisis. Could be worse. Could be a sports car." They parked 3 blocks away and approached on foot. The loading dock was staffed by Danny Morrison, who'd worked security for 15 years. Mr. Caldwell. Danny's face split into a smile. Man, it's good to see you. Danny, I need a favor, a big one. Danny's smile faded. This about the shady stuff Mr. Hale's been doing. You know about that? Security hears things. We're invisible to executives, so they talk like we're not there. I know something ain't right. And Mr. Hale, he's not the man you founded this company with. I need to get into the server room, just for an hour. Danny studied him. You going to fix this? I'm going to try. Then I didn't see you tonight. But sir, be quick. Guard rotation happens at midnight. They slipped inside, moving through corridors. Ethan remembered. The elevator required a keycard from Maria Santos, his former IT head, who'd left it in a predetermined spot. They descended to basement level 2. The server room door loomed ahead. This is you, Ethan said to David. David pulled out equipment. 15 minutes, maybe 20. 17 minutes later, the door clicked open. They stepped into the server room. Rows of machines, blinking lights, the hum of processors. David connected to a terminal. What am I looking for? Anything related to Red Hollow, youth facilities, government contracts, especially anything with predictive or behavioral modeling. They worked in silence, copying files. Ethan found contracts worth millions, deals with Homeland Security, Defense, international agencies, all centered on predictive technology. But the training data came from children. Thousands of children in Red Hollow facilities. Medical records, psychological evaluations, biometric data, behavioral tracking, everything monitored, recorded, fed into algorithms. Jesus, David breathed. They're treating these kids like lab rats. Worse, lab rats have protections. Ethan kept copying. Got something, David said. He pulled up a file marked confidential. Internal memo from Richard Hale to Red Hollow's board. Recent complications regarding former employee N. Miller have been resolved. Security protocols implemented to prevent future information leakage. Facility oversight increased for subject LM pending relocation to controlled environment. Ethan's blood ran cold. Subject LM Lucy Miller. They were planning to move her, where they could monitor her, make sure she didn't know anything. David's face was grim. You got her out just in time. Copy everything. Every file that mentions Red Hollow, Nora Miller, Lucy Miller or these contracts. They worked for 40 minutes. Finally David disconnected. Got it all. 5 terabytes of evidence. They erased their digital footprints and made it back to the loading dock. Danny was waiting, looking relieved. You get what you needed, and then some. Danny, in the next few days things are going to get crazy. Federal investigators probably. Tell them everything you know. I ain't worried about me, I'm worried about those kids. Danny's voice was rough. My nephew was in a Red Hollow facility for 6 months, said it was like prison. Ethan's jaw clenched. What's your nephew's name? Marcus Morrison. When this is over, I'm starting a foundation to help kids hurt by these places. Marcus will be one of the first we reach out to. Danny's eyes glistened. You're a good man, Mr. Caldwell. Friday morning, Ethan delivered the files to Emma in person. She scrolled through documents, her expression darkening. This is worse than I imagined, she said. Ethan, this isn't just corporate malfeasance. This is systemic abuse. Can you verify it? Some of it. I've got sources at CPS who've been suspicious about Red Hollow. Give me 72 hours. Make it 60. Richard's nervous. How do you know? Ethan showed her a text from an unknown number. We know what you're doing. Stay away from Magnus. Stay away from the girl. This is your only warning. Emma paled. They're threatening you. They're scared. Good. Means we're close. Ethan pocketed his phone. Publish the story, Emma. Make it impossible to bury. The story published Monday morning. Emma Gray's byline appeared in 3 major newspapers and every news website. The children they forgot. How Magnus Industries and Red Hollow Security turned foster care into a corporate laboratory. The article was comprehensive and devastating. It detailed every connection. It quoted former employees. It included testimony from children. It connected Nora Miller's death to Victor Kane. And it featured Lucy's story, the little girl who escaped and triggered an investigation that would topple an empire. By noon, Magnus's stock dropped 30%. By evening, the FBI announced a formal investigation. State legislators called for hearings. Richard Hale issued a statement denying everything, calling it malicious fabrication. But the evidence was too strong. Within 24 hours, 3 board members resigned. Within 48 hours, Richard was placed on administrative leave. Ethan watched from his study, Lucy beside him. Is it really over? She asked. The first part is, but Lucy, there's going to be attention now. Reporters might try to talk to you. I don't want to be famous. I know, but your story is going to help other kids. On the screen, Emma Gray was being interviewed. What made this story so urgent? Because children were being hurt, Emma said. Because a good woman died trying to protect her granddaughter. And because one man decided to stop hiding and fight for something that mattered. Lucy looked at Ethan. She's talking about you. She's talking about your grandmother most of all. That evening, as Ethan was making dinner, his doorbell rang. He froze. Lucy looked frightened. Stay here, he said quietly. A young woman stood on his porch, late 20s, professional, carrying a press badge. Ethan opened the door a crack. I'm not giving interviews. I'm not here for an interview. I'm here to warn you. She glanced nervously over her shoulder. My name is Jessica Torres. I work for Magnus in PR. I quit this morning after reading the article. Mr. Caldwell, Victor Kane left headquarters an hour ago. I heard him on the phone saying your address. I think he's coming here. Ethan's blood went cold. You're sure? I'm sure. He was angry. Talking about loose ends. Please call the police. Thank you. Go straight to the FBI. Tell them everything. You'll be protected. She ran to her car. Ethan slammed the door, activated the security system, and pulled out his phone. This is Ethan Caldwell, at 17 Oak Manor Drive. I have reason to believe Victor Kane, wanted for questioning, in connection with a murder investigation, is on his way to my home. I have a 7-year-old child here. We need police immediately. He called Claire. Kane's coming. Get here fast. I'm 10 minutes away. Ethan, barricade yourself somewhere defensible. Ethan grabbed Lucy's hand. Upstairs. Now. They ran to Sarah's old study, a room with a solid door and lock. Ethan pushed furniture against the door, the desk, a bookshelf. Lucy helped. Why is he coming? She asked, breathing hard. Because he's scared. The story's out, and he knows he's going to prison. He wants to tie up loose ends. We're loose ends, Lucy said. Smart girl. But we're not going to let him win. Ethan pulled out his phone and started recording. Lucy, if something happens, no. Her voice was fierce. Nothing's going to happen. You promised. Footsteps sounded downstairs. Heavy, deliberate. Mr. Caldwell, Kane's voice echoed. Calm, almost friendly. I know you're here, and I know the girl's with you. Ethan pulled Lucy close, putting himself between her and the door. He kept recording. The police are on their way, Ethan called out. You're done, Kane. The police. Kane laughed. I've been dodging police for 20 years. I'm worried about you, Ethan. You've caused problems for very important people. Kane's footsteps climbed the stairs. You killed Nora Miller, Ethan said loudly, still recording. You pushed her down those stairs because she found out what Magnus and Red Hollow were doing. Nora Miller was a nosy old woman who couldn't mind her business. She threatened to go to the press. She had documents. I did what I had to do. You murdered her. I solved a problem, just like I'm about to solve another one. The door handle rattled. Kane kicked the door. Once, twice. The frame cracked. Lucy whimpered. Ethan squeezed her shoulder. Stay behind me. Kane kicked again. The desk shifted. Where are the police? Lucy breathed. Coming. Hold on. Kane kicked once more. You can't hide forever, Ethan. And that little girl can't either. I don't know anything. Lucy shouted, her voice shaking but defiant. Grandma didn't tell me anything. Doesn't matter. You're still a liability. Another kick. The door splintered. Richard wants this story to die. That means no witnesses. Richard Hale ordered this. Ethan asked, still recording. He ordered you to kill us. Kane laughed. Richard doesn't order. He suggests. He mentions problems. I solve them. One more kick and the door would break. Ethan looked desperately for a weapon. Then he saw it. The window. Lucy, we're going out the window. What? When I say run, you climb out and get to the trellis. Climb down and run to the nearest house. Don't stop. I'm not leaving you. You have to. If he gets both of us, he wins. If you get away, you can tell people what happened. Ethan met her eyes. Be brave one more time. Tears streamed down Lucy's face, but she nodded. Ethan unlocked the window and shoved it open. Go. Lucy climbed onto the windowsill, then out onto the roof. She reached the trellis and started climbing down. Behind him, Kane's final kick broke the door. The desk scraped across the floor. Kane stepped through. Smart, sending the girl away, Kane said, but pointless. I'll catch her after I'm done with you. No, you won't. Ethan smiled grimly. Because the police are here. Kane's eyes narrowed. Then he heard it. Sirens, multiple vehicles, tires screeching. You bastard, Kane breathed. I've been recording everything you said. Every confession. It's uploading to the cloud right now. Even if you kill me, it won't matter. You're finished. Kane pulled a gun. Then I've got nothing to lose. Time slowed. Ethan saw Kane's finger tighten. He thought of Lucy, hoped she'd made it to safety. He thought of Sarah and Nora. Then the window exploded inward. Glass shattered as a SWAT team member swung through on a repelling line. Weapon raised. Drop it. Drop the weapon. More officers poured through the broken door. Kane spun, raising his gun, and Ethan lunged. He hit Kane low and hard, tackling him. The gun went off, deafening, but the bullet went wide. Officers swarmed them. Kane was pulled off Ethan and slammed to the floor, hands cuffed. Lucy, Ethan gasped. The girl, outside. We've got her, sir, an officer said. She's safe. She flagged down the first patrol car. Ethan sagged with relief. They helped him to his feet. Someone wrapped a blanket around his shoulders. Someone else checked him for injuries. The bullet had missed. He was fine, just bruised. Outside, more sirens, more voices. Mr. Caldwell, a woman in an FBI windbreaker, approached. I'm Agent Sarah Matthews. We've been monitoring Kane since the story broke. When we got the 911 call, we were already en route. He confessed, Ethan said, to killing Nora Miller, to being ordered by Richard Hale. I recorded everything. We heard. Your phone's still transmitting. Agent Matthews smiled slightly. Smart thinking. Where's Lucy? Downstairs. Ethan pushed past everyone and ran downstairs. Lucy was in the foyer, wrapped in a blanket, talking to a female officer. When she saw Ethan, she burst into tears and ran to him. He caught her and held on tight. You're okay, Lucy sobbed. You're okay, so are you. You were so brave, sweetheart. Claire burst through the front door, saw them, and joined the hug. It's over, Claire said. Kane's in custody. Richard Hale was arrested an hour ago. The FBI raided Magnus headquarters and Red Hollow facilities in 5 states. It's over, Ethan. The kids? Ethan asked. The children in those facilities, being transferred to proper care. Every child in Red Hollow's system is being evaluated. They're safe now. Because of you. Because of Lucy. Ethan looked down at the little girl in his arms. Because of Nora. She started this. That night after the police left and the news vans departed, Ethan tucked Lucy into bed. I had a nightmare, Lucy whispered. But not the kind I used to have. I dreamed Grandma was there, and she was smiling. She said she was proud. Ethan's throat tightened. I think she is. Do you think she knows about Kane getting arrested? I think she knows, and I think she's at peace now. Lucy was quiet. Ethan, can I call you something? Not just your name. What would you like to call me? Can I call you Dad? The question hit him like a blow. Tears sprang to his eyes. I know you're not my real dad, Lucy said quickly, but you feel like my dad, and this feels like home. Yes, Ethan interrupted, his voice cracking. Yes, sweetheart, you can call me Dad. I'd be honored. Lucy smiled through her tears. Okay, good night, Dad. Good night, Lucy, my Lucy. He stayed until she fell asleep, then stood in the foyer, where she'd first stood 12 days ago. 12 days. That's all it had taken to transform his life. He thought about the man he'd been isolated, drowning in grief, and the man he was now, a father, a fighter, someone with purpose. Nora had been right. She'd always been right. Outside the night was clear. Inside, Ethan Caldwell finally felt warm again. The days following Kane's arrest blurred together. Ethan declined most media requests, but appeared on one national program with Emma Gray. You're being called a hero, the interviewer said. I'm not a hero, Ethan replied firmly. The hero is Nora Miller, who died trying to protect children. I just did what anyone should do when they discover something wrong. But you risked everything. Because a little girl showed up on my doorstep, and reminded me what it means to be human. Ethan looked at the camera. If this story teaches anything, it's that we're all responsible for each other, especially for those who can't protect themselves. The interview went viral. Within days, Ethan received thousands of messages from people inspired to check on the systems in their communities. But the most important message came from Claire. Judge-approved emergency custody. Lucy's officially yours. Congratulations, Dad. Ethan read the text to Lucy. She looked up, eyes wide. Really, I get to stay forever? Forever, Ethan confirmed. You're stuck with me now. Lucy launched herself at him. Thank you, Ethan said. For finding me, for saving me. The legal proceedings moved fast. Kane cut a deal, testifying against Richard in exchange for a reduced sentence. Even with the deal, he was looking at 25 years. Richard Hale went to trial, and was convicted on multiple counts: conspiracy, illegal human experimentation, racketeering, accessory to murder. The judge sentenced him to 45 years in federal prison. Justice, Emma Gray wrote, is sometimes slow, but when it comes with force. Magnus Industries collapsed. The board dissolved the company, selling assets to pay victims. The building Ethan had once been proud of stood empty, but from the ashes, something new grew. Ethan established the Nora Miller Foundation, with one clear mission: protect children in state custody, and reform foster care. He donated $50 million to start, then raised twice that from other tech leaders, horrified by what Magnus had done. The foundation opened its first facility in Ashbury, not a group home, but a true home. Small houses, each with house parents, and no more than 6 children. Real families, real support, real love. Lucy insisted on speaking at the opening ceremony. She was terrified, shaking as she stood at the podium, but she spoke anyway. My grandma used to say that every kid deserves to feel safe, she said, her voice steady. She said every kid deserves someone who'll fight for them. She fought for me, and now my dad is fighting for all of us. This place is named after her, but it's built for every kid who needs a home. Welcome. You're safe now. The crowd erupted in applause. After the ceremony, one of the new residents approached Lucy shyly, a boy about her age with wary eyes. Is it really true, he asked, that we don't have to ask permission for stuff, that they won't lock us in? It's really true, Lucy said. I know it's hard to believe. I didn't believe it at first either, but it gets easier. How long did it take you? Lucy thought about it. I still have bad days. Days when I'm scared it'll all go away. But my dad reminds me fear is normal after bad things happen. It doesn't mean you're broken, it means you're healing. The boy nodded slowly. Maybe I'll try to believe it. That's all anyone can ask. That summer, Ethan officially adopted Lucy. The ceremony was small but perfect. Judge Harrison, who'd handled the emergency custody, presided. Lucy Marie Miller, do you want Ethan James Caldwell to be your father? Yes, Lucy said clearly, more than anything. And Ethan James Caldwell, do you want Lucy Marie Miller to be your daughter? Ethan's voice caught. Yes, Your Honor, she already is. This just makes it official. Judge Harrison signed the papers. Then I declare this adoption final. Congratulations to the Caldwell family. Lucy threw her arms around Ethan's neck. I'm really yours now, forever and ever, forever and ever. They celebrated with dinner at Lucy's favorite Italian restaurant. Claire joined them, along with Emma, David and Danny Morrison. To family Claire toasted. The ones we're born into and the ones we choose. To Nora Emma added, who made all of this possible. To second chances Ethan said, looking at Lucy, and the people brave enough to give them. They clinked glasses and ate and laughed and celebrated the family they'd built from loss and love. Spring came early, melting snow and coaxing flowers from the earth. The Japanese maple in the backyard exploded with pink blossoms. Lucy was 8 years old now, tall and confident. She'd grown into herself, leaving behind the scared little girl, and becoming someone remarkable. The Nora Miller Foundation celebrated its first anniversary with a gala fundraiser. Over 500 people attended. They raised $7 million in a single night, but the real celebration happened the next day, when the foundation opened its 10th facility on land adjacent to Ethan's property. A community center where kids could gather, learn, play, and just be kids. The center had everything: art studios, a music room, a library, sports fields, and a massive kitchen. But the centerpiece was a treehouse, designed by Lucy herself. I wanted something that felt free, Lucy explained during the opening. Something high up where you can see everything, where nobody can lock you in. A place that reminds you that you can always reach for something better. The treehouse was magnificent, multi-level, with rope ladders and bridges, windows on all sides, and a plaque at the entrance. For every child who needs somewhere safe to dream. Lucy was the first to climb up, followed by dozens of other children. Their laughter echoed across the grounds. Ethan watched from below, standing beside Claire and Emma. You did it, Claire said softly. You built something that will outlast all of us. Nora did it, Ethan corrected. She started the chain reaction, and Lucy's going to carry it into the next generation, Emma added. That kid's going places. Lucy appeared at the treehouse railing, waving. Dad, come up, you have to see the view. Ethan climbed the ladder and emerged into the treehouse. Lucy stood at the far window looking out over the property. Look, she said, pointing. You can see our house from here, and the foundation offices, and the road where I first walked that night. Ethan joined her. She was right, you could see everything from here. The whole journey, laid out in a single view. That was a brave walk, he said. Through a blizzard, all alone, looking for help. I wasn't really alone, Lucy said. Grandma was with me. I could feel her telling me to keep going. She looked up at him. She was right. She usually was. They stood together looking out at the world they'd built from grief and love. Other children's laughter filled the treehouse. Dad, Lucy said. Yeah, I've been thinking about what I want to do when I grow up. What's that? I want to be a lawyer, like Claire, so I can help make laws that protect kids. And I want to run the foundation, make it even bigger. And I want to write books about all of this. She looked up. Is that too much? Ethan laughed. Lucy, you can do anything you set your mind to. All of those things if you want. But I don't want to waste time. There are kids who need help now. And you're helping them now. But you're also 8 years old. It's okay to just be a kid sometimes. Lucy considered this. Can I be both? A kid and someone who helps. You already are both, and you're doing great. They sat in comfortable silence until other children pulled Lucy away to join their game. Ethan watched her run and laugh, fully alive. As evening approached, Ethan and Lucy walked home across the adjoining property. This is nice, Lucy said, swinging their joined hands. Being able to walk home, knowing the foundation's right there. That was the plan. Keep everything close. Keep family close. We have a pretty big family now. Not just you and me, but Claire and Emma, and David and all the kids in the facilities and all the staff. It's like we built a whole community. That's exactly what we built, what Nora started and we continued. They reached the house as the sun was setting. Lucy paused on the porch, looking back at the community center, the foundation offices, the Japanese maple glowing pink in the distance. "It's beautiful," she said softly. "All of it, everything we've made, it is. And it's just the beginning." That night, after dinner and homework and reading, Ethan tucked Lucy into bed. "Dad?" she said as he was turning off the light. "Yeah? I love you." She said it often now, no longer afraid of the words, but each time still hit Ethan with the force of a miracle. "I love you too, Lucy. More than anything in the world, more than Magnus Industries, way more than Magnus Industries. That was just a company. You're my daughter." Lucy smiled. "Good, because you're the best dad ever. And you're the best daughter. Now sleep. What's tomorrow?" "Tomorrow we just get to be us. No speeches, no interviews, just a regular day." "Those are my favorite," Lucy said, yawning. "The regular days with you." Ethan kissed her forehead. "Mine too." He closed the door halfway, and went downstairs. The house was quiet, but it was the peaceful quiet of a home well lived in. He poured himself a small glass of scotch and went to the study. Outside, the moon was rising, casting silver light across the yard. Ethan pulled out an old photo album, one he'd been too afraid to open for years. It was filled with pictures of Sarah. Looking at the photos didn't hurt the way it used to. The grief was still there, would always be there, but it had changed shape. It had become something he could carry. "You'd love her, Sarah," he said to his late wife's photograph. "Lucy, she's everything good in the world. I think you two would have gotten along perfectly." He turned the page, finding a photo of himself and Sarah on their wedding day. They looked so young, so full of hope. "I'm sorry it took me so long to come back to life. I'm sorry I wasted so much time hiding. But I'm living now, really living, because of Lucy, because of Nora." He closed the album and set it aside. Tomorrow he'd show it to Lucy. She deserved to know about Sarah. Ethan stood and walked to the window, looking out at the property. The community center lights were still on. The Japanese maple stood tall, its blossoms visible even in moonlight. "The light she left behind," Ethan murmured, thinking of Nora. But it wasn't just Nora's light anymore. It was Lucy's light. It was the light of every child they'd helped, every family they'd supported, every life they'd changed. It was the light of second chances and new beginnings. The light of love finding its way through grief. The light of one person deciding to stand up and fight for what was right. Ethan finished his drink and turned off the lights. As he climbed the stairs, he paused at Lucy's door. She was asleep, curled on her side, peaceful and safe. "Good night, sweetheart," he whispered. "Good night, Nora. Good night, Sarah. Thank you for the light. I'll keep it burning. I promise." He went to his room and climbed into bed, more at peace than he'd been in a decade. Outside, the Japanese maple rustled in the night breeze. Its pink blossoms glowed in the moonlight, beautiful and impossible and perfect. A light in the darkness, a promise kept, a love that never dies. 6 months later, the foundation had grown beyond anyone's expectations. 12 facilities now operated across 6 states, each one a home rather than an institution. Over 1,500 children had found safety, and dozens had been adopted into loving families. Lucy turned 9 in the spring, and they celebrated with a party at the community center. Children from all the facilities attended, along with staff, donors, and the families who'd been formed through the foundation's work. "Make a wish," Ethan said as Lucy leaned over her cake, candles flickering. She closed her eyes for a moment, then blew them all out in one breath. Everyone cheered. Later, when the guests had left and they were cleaning up, Ethan asked, "What did you wish for?" "I'm not supposed to tell," Lucy said. Then she smiled. "But I will anyway. I wished that every kid in the world could feel as safe as I do, that everyone could have what we have." Ethan pulled her into a hug. "That's a good wish. And you know what? I think we're going to make it come true, one child at a time." That summer, Lucy spoke at a national conference on child welfare reform. She was nervous but determined, standing at a podium in front of hundreds of advocates, lawmakers and journalists. "My name is Lucy Caldwell," she began. 2 years ago I was nobody, just another foster kid in a broken system, invisible and voiceless. Today I'm standing here because people believed in me, but more importantly, I'm standing here because there are millions of other kids who are still invisible, still voiceless, and they need you to believe in them too. She spoke about her experiences, about the failures of the system, about the changes that needed to happen. She talked about Nora's sacrifice, about Ethan's courage, and about hope. You have power, Lucy said, looking directly at the audience. Power to make laws, to allocate resources, to change systems. I'm just a kid. I don't have that power, but I have my voice, and I'm using it to tell you kids like me are counting on you. Don't let us down. See us as people, protect us, fight for us. The applause was immediate and thunderous. People stood, some crying. Lucy had done it again, spoken truth to power, and made them listen. The speech went viral. Within weeks, Congress passed new legislation strengthening oversight of foster care facilities. 3 states announced major reforms. The Nora Miller Act became law, named after the woman who'd started it all. Fall arrived, bringing cooler weather. Lucy started 4th grade at a school where she'd made real friends. She joined the art club and discovered a talent for painting. Her subjects were always the same: light breaking through darkness, windows opening, doors unlatched. One painting, a little girl standing before a house with glowing windows, won first place in the school art show. Lucy donated it to the foundation, where it hung in the main office. Ethan established a scholarship fund for former foster children, covering college tuition and support services. Marcus Morrison, Danny's nephew, was among the first recipients. Letters poured in. Thank you notes from kids who'd found families, gratitude from parents, stories from young adults who'd used the scholarship to build lives they'd never thought possible. Ethan read every letter. Lucy did too. They kept them in a special room, a library of hope, walls covered with messages from people they'd helped. Look at this, Lucy said one evening, holding up a letter from a 16-year-old girl. She says we saved her life. She was going to run away, but then she heard about the foundation. Now she's in one of our houses and she's safe. That's why we do this. Ethan said, I know, but it's still amazing every time. Lucy pinned the letter to the wall. Grandma saved me. You saved me. Now we're saving other people. It's like a chain of light, passing from person to person. Ethan pulled her into a side hug. You have your grandmother's wisdom, and your stubbornness. Lucy grinned. That's what you always say. Both good qualities. You're going to do incredible things. Lucy Caldwell. We're going to do incredible things, she corrected. Together, on the 2nd anniversary of Nora's death, they held a memorial service. They gathered in the backyard where the Japanese maple stood tall, its branches full of pink blossoms even in autumn. My grandma believed in light, Lucy said, addressing the crowd. She believed that one person could make a difference, that kindness mattered, that standing up for what's right was always worth it, even when it was scary. She died protecting me, and protecting other kids. And because she did, all of this happened. The foundation, the law, the thousands of kids who are safe now, all of it started with her. Lucy placed flowers at the base of the maple tree. Thank you, Grandma, for saving me, for sending me to Dad, for showing us what it means to be brave. Your light is still shining, it always will be. Others placed flowers too. The base of the tree became a garden of color and love. That evening, after everyone left, Ethan and Lucy sat on the back porch watching the sunset. Do you think she knows? Lucy asked. About everything that happened, everything that changed. I think she knows. I think she's been watching the whole time, proud of how brave you've been. We've been, Lucy corrected. You were brave too. They sat in comfortable silence until darkness fell and stars began to appear. Dad, Lucy said eventually. Yeah, I'm glad she sent me to you. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. As night deepened, they went inside together. The house that had once been a tomb was now filled with light and laughter and life. Lucy went upstairs to finish her homework. Ethan stopped in the library of hope, reading letters on the walls. Each one represented a life changed, a future made possible, a child given hope. He thought about the man he'd been 3 years ago, isolated, bitter, convinced his life was over. And he thought about the man he was now, a father, an advocate, someone making a difference. Thank you, Nora, he whispered. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for giving me a reason to come back to life. Ethan turned off the light and went upstairs. Lucy's door was open, never locked, always free. She was at her desk, working on a school paper, humming softly. She looked up and smiled. Need something, Dad? Nope, just checking on you. I'm good. She went back to her homework. Ethan smiled and continued to his room. Good. That was all he'd ever wanted for her. Mission accomplished. He sat on his bed and looked out the window. The Japanese maple was visible in the moonlight, its pink blossoms glowing like small lanterns in the darkness. The light she left behind, Nora's light, Lucy's light, Sarah's light. The light of every person who'd chosen to stand up instead of sit down, to speak instead of stay silent, to love instead of fear. The light that passes from hand to hand, heart to heart, generation to generation. The light that never ever goes out. Ethan lay back on his bed, feeling more at peace than he'd thought possible. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new children to help, new battles to fight, but tonight he could rest, because Lucy was safe, because justice had been served, because love had found a way. Outside, the wind stirred the maple's branches, making the blossoms dance, and somewhere beyond sight, but never beyond reach, 3 women smiled, Sarah, Nora, and the countless mothers whose children now had hope because of them. The Caldwell house settled into sleep, warm and full of life, ready for whatever tomorrow would bring, and in the darkness, the light kept shining, always.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.